Alright, what's up guys, it's Zero here, and today I have for you the first deck profile that I'll be doing for set 1 of G, and it is of course none other than my favorite deck, or my favorite clan, Kagero, and of course it is not Blade Master. That deck is doo-doo garbage, but it is Overlord. We got the first set of G gave us Overlord the Cross, the X, whatever you want to call it, but the correct way to call it is the Cross. Very, very powerful deck. Spoilers, I do think it is honestly, probably the uncontested best deck of the game, of the format right now. So, I didn't personally play the TCG at this time, but I did hear from people that the Cross was rampaging through the meta of set 1 of G, and to no surprise, he's doing the same thing in Zero. Why Stride when you can just Legion and use Dota every turn, right? So, without further ado, here is the list that I have been rocking for the Cross. Just before I've been getting further, I would say the G zone is not how I would personally prefer to be fully optimized, but GRs are expensive, and I could not be fucked to get a playset of a GR when I don't even think it's that necessary nor that good. So keep that in mind when we get to the G zone. I will tell you what I would personally play if I had a playset of everything. So yeah. But the main deck is exactly how I would want it to be. So first off, the starter is none other than Mr. Conroe himself. He is still the best starter for the clan. That has not changed. I don't think it will ever change until we actually get something that's absolutely better than Conroe. And I don't see anything that's better than Conroe for a long time. He has even better targets to search now. He has PGs, he has Grom, which we'll get to right after. He has the Stride Fodder, and he has the good old Gojo that we have cut down to a 1 of now, and I'll explain as we get there. So yeah, the grade 1s keep getting better, Conroe keeps on getting better, and we are already at a point where the grade 1s are absolutely amazing, and PG is not always your first choice to search. So yeah, starter is absolutely Conroe. All your other starters suck compared to Conroe. So yeah, 1 of Mr. Gojo himself, the tap self filter. I was playing 4 of him at one point, but after a while, after a bit of testing, I decided to cut the Conroes, or not the Conroes, the Gojos for the Stride Fodder, the Lava Flow. So this thing's skill is, the Stride Fodder skill is, if you're paying Stride for cost, this card counts as plus 2 grades, so this thing is a grade 3 when you pay for cost, so 1 card to Stride, and other skill is on play. The rear, you can discard a card search check for a grade 3 Blade Master. So we are playing the 1 Draconic Blade Master in the deck to facilitate this. Mainly this is just the flex 1 of spot. It doesn't really matter what the spot is, but since we are playing the Stride Fodder, Blade Master is definitely the best 1 of. And because the Lava Flow does discard a card to search the Blade Master, early on in the game when you're just trying to fill draw zone up to Legion, it does fulfill a basically the same role as the Gojo. So that's why I think the Stride Fodder is still good for the full filling drop zone up, but more importantly, later on to the game when you're just out of steam, when you're out of gas to use dotes and stuff, you do need some way to keep close the game, and striding is how you do it, because your strides are all relatively cheap on cost. Mustafa CB1, Root Flare CB0, and you don't want to be tossing like 3 cards to stride late into the game, like 2 or 3 cards to stride late into the game. So the Stride Fodder definitely helps with that. Ever since making the change, the transition of going like looping dotes and and the crosses every single turn, and then once you're finally done with that, having Stride Fodder in the hand to toss as 1 card just to stride is definitely makes the deck feel a lot more smooth and feels a lot better to play. So I definitely do think the 4 Stride Fodder is a very good inclusion into even an Overlord centric deck and not just the Blade Master centric deck. So yeah. And finally, the last grade 1 is Mr. Grom. This card was honestly a mistake. I don't know how they thought this was okay. This card honestly pushes the deck over the top. But if you don't have his skills on place, Soul Blast 2 to counter charge too. So obviously we don't have Mr. Calamity Tower yet, the Soul Blast 2 draw 1, but Grom honestly I think a better card than Calamity for this deck, because what this card, it does a bunch of roles for the deck. It gives you counter charge, so you don't have to play Bellicosses in the deck. It includes Seam of Great Line. I've cut the Bellicossi down to a 1 of just as a filler flex spot. But this card is counter charge. It empties out your soul, so that not only lets you get your triggers out of your soul, because when you're legioning with the cross, you are legioning with another grade 3, the dote, the end, and then you are over it, you have 2 grade 3s in soul. The soul blast splits them out, you can loop them again, and early on it fills your drop zone up super fast to get your drop zone up for Legion. So this card is just all around really good. This card is a mandatory 4 from this deck. I'd say playing any less is definitely wrong in my opinion. So yeah. That's it for the grade 1 line. Grade 2, we are playing, we'll go from the bottom actually. 1 Bellicossi. This can be anything. I honestly have thought about cutting the Bellicossi for like a Berserk Dragon or even the Perdition grade 2 that's on Legion to CB1 to retire or something in the same column as it. But I just haven't got around to testing those cards, and Bellicossi is still a fine card. Just counter charge is never a bad thing to have. I will say though that early in the game, if you use Conroe and you roll the Bellicossi and you unflip on that hit, the issue with that is that because you unflip, you can't use the Grom the following turn to fill drop zone. So you have to be wary of that if you do just ride the Bellicossi after using Conroe. So just something to note, and why Bellicossi has kind of has some like small anti-synergies with the Grom, because you can't in Zero you can't pay cost to do something you can't do. So you can't pay cost to unflip Zero to not countercharge anything. So yeah. Next up, another the four ofs to grade 2 is the Burning Horn. So this thing's skill is very simple. If you're during your turn, your Vanguard's an Overlord, plus 3k, 12k attacker. Very simple skill, but a very, very good skill because it's a solo attacker, and Kagero is still a deck that isn't the best at putting boosters out all the time. So having something that can hit into Vanguard solo or hit into like 10k intercept solo is very, very good. This card is surprisingly, honestly, probably the best grade 2 in the deck. If you play the deck enough, you will realize that how good just having a solo attacker in this deck is. So definitely, I think is a 4 of, absolutely. Next up, 4 Striking, so resist, and then when you round hop of it, that unit gets 5k in a crit. If you go second and you ride the cross and they give you 2 counterblast, you basically you're doing the strike and dope play that you were doing like 10 sets ago, over 10 sets ago, but except your Vanguard is scaling and super big and you guarantee a copy of the Persona Blast. So this is honestly a very, very powerful play, the strike into the end. If you're playing as Kagero and they ride the strike in, and you went first, you probably do have to be aware of giving them 2 counterblast because Grom exists now, so they can unflip whenever they want. And if you give it to them, you're probably eating 4 that turn. 4 like guaranteed damage unless they like quad blank and you flip like double defensive, which is like super unlikely. So yeah, very, very powerful play. You absolutely need to respect it. And then Stricken, after you ride it, it's a 10k intercept, which isn't the worst thing in the world. And finally, the last 4 is the Draconic Burnout. So his skill is on place CB1, you banish a Overlord from your drop zone to retire any rear. You would think that in a deck that wants to loop its legions that this card isn't very good, but this card is actually very good because you don't really use this card's skill early in the game. You just play it on as an intercept, which is still fine. It's not vanilla. And then later on in the game when you're running out of counterblast, you can run low or on counterblast, or you just need to do like just like pop a rear and then like dote into the other intercept to clear the intercepts off. The Burnout is very, very useful. This card is very good, and I definitely do think that it is optimal to play it for. Obviously, it's a triple rare, and like, not everyone opened this set, but this card is very good, and I'm pretty sure by the time I put this video, Global still has Sparking, and if you plan on playing this deck, I would absolutely recommend getting a playset of Sparking for a playset of Burnouts. Same with the Burning Horns if you can have them, because surprisingly, a lot of people have told me they don't own a playset of Burning Horns, so I definitely would say that the Burning Horns and the Burnouts are worth the sparks if you want to play this deck. These 2 cards are very, very integral to the deck's gameplay. Solo Hacker and a cheaper tower cost for the deck. So yeah. That's it for the grade 2s, and onwards to the grade 3s. I guess it's triggers now, not grade 3s. First is the main ride of the deck, the Draconic Overlord the Cross. His key Legions with Draconic Overlord the End, everyone's favorite Overlord that restands and draws 2 cards. But his skill, the reason it makes really so good in this deck is on Legion, you search your deck for a copy of the same name as something in your Vanguard. So when you Legion, your Vanguard is the Cross, but also the End, so you can search a copy of the End. And since a Vanguard's mate can activate its Vanguard skill as well, if you search the End and you hit, you can use the End skill to Counterblast 2 to the Persona Blast card to restand and draw 2. So very good there. But something to note, if you already have copies of the End in hand, you do actually want to just grab the Cross so that you can re-Legion on the following turn, Soul Blast your mates and leaders out with the Grom and re-Legion and do it all over again on the next turn. So you definitely don't just autopilot grab the dotes here. Sometimes you do actually grab the copies of Crosses as well. And with excess copies of the Cross, he does have his own Persona Blast, which skill is when his attack doesn't hit, you can CB1 Persona Blast to pop 2 of your points regard. So not that late in the game, you do just pop the boosters so they run out of cards to play. I think in one of the games that I'll have after this, that does actually come up where my opponent just didn't have a board or a hand, and I just opted to use this to pop both their back row. It does come every once in a while, but it's mainly used here to search secure copies of Dotes and secures extra copies of itself to re-ride more than anything. So yeah, very, very, very good. For this card is absolutely insane. And then obviously the Dote is the mate, so his skill is Cardfight with OG Overlord, but we don't play that in this deck, so that is irrelevant. But the skill is a CB2 on hit Persona Blast, restand draw 2, and when the mate stands, the Vanguard, the leader also stands. So this is basically a Dote, but it always scales, because the biggest problem with Dote before is that it was 11k, you swing, your lanes are like barely scaling properly, but now your Vanguard's always 22, so your lane's always scaling, no need to worry about defenses or anything like that. And then finally, the last grade 3 is the Draconic Blade Master, so his skill is GB2. During your turn, you have more rears than your opponent, plus 5k plus a crit. I don't think this has ever come up for me, but it's there, I guess. And then the other skill is when your G unit strides on top of it, you can CB1 to pop an intercept, or pop a rear, not intercept, pop a rear. So, and then in tandem with the other strides, you can just pop the entire front row for like 2 counterblasts or 1 counterblast, depending on what you stride. So, really nice filler one-of, and it's also there to facilitate the ability to actually discard with the lava flow, which is pretty nice. If you're not playing the Stride Fodder package, which I do recommend you play, or you just play Stride Fodders without the Blade Master, your other one-of slots here are like OG Overlord. If you want to play Neo Flame, or you want to play Neo Flames in your grade 2 slots, you can play the Greats. You can play like the Great here. My issue with the Great is that I didn't want to play Neo Flame, and I didn't think it was worth to play like 2 Neo Flames or like 1 Neo Flame to play 1 copy of the Great, because I don't think the Great is that good of a card to begin with anymore. So yeah, you could try that, but I think this is the better package. The 4 Stride Fodder plus the 1 Blade Master. And finally, the last trigger in the deck is the Mother Orb, I think is the name of this card, but it is your grade 0 heal now. So it's a heal trigger, 5k, it can be a booster, and then his skills, if you get hit, you can use it. This card drops itself as a 15k shield. So yeah, it's an extra defensive option. There's no reason not to play it. If these didn't exist, you'd probably play the Great in this slot or 4 Blade Masters on heal in this slot. But because they do exist, an extra defensive option will always be played. And I just realized that I did not go over the new PG. It does matter because it is a new kind of PG now. It is the countercharge PG, where if you PG and use the PG, if you have another copy of this card in your drop zone, you countercharge one. So, for example, if your hand is like 4 PGs, they killed your entire front row, you're at 5. First one checked, PG to drop. Second one check, PG to drop. Since you have 1 in drop zone now, you unflip 1. And then if they swing Vanguard again, you have another PG drop, you unflip another 1. You don't flip 1 per PG and drop. You flip 1 if you have 1 in your drop. So yeah, that's how that works. It's literally PG with upside. There's no reason not to play these PGs now. So yeah. And finally, the G zone. We are playing. Just to say, if I had my way and had playsets of everything, play Root Flare at 4, play Mustafa at 4, play Mahmood at 1. Mahmood is like a garbage stride, but it's better than a Crave. It's like better than a Crave Elemental stride, so you play this just to fill in slots. So yeah, the Root Flare skill is a GB2. Once per turn, Persona Flip to choose one of your opponent's rears, and you kill everything in that rear. So it's a pain laser free of cost, and it's in your G zone. So yeah, a nice toolbox option to have. As you can see, I own 3 of it, but because it's a Persona Flip, 3 is basically 2. So yeah, no reason to play actual vanilla in the G zone. Next up, the Mustafa. So his skill is once per turn, CB1, flip anything in your G zone to pop any rear, and then for every copy of itself that's face up in your G zone. So if you flip a copy of itself, that's 1. If you're going to this guy on the second turn, you flipped a copy of itself before, and if you flip the copy of itself before and you flip again, you give it to like 4 different units. But basically what you do is for every copy of this card face up in your Z zone, you give a unit the effect on hit counter charge. So you can give it to itself, you can give it to a rear, and give it to whatever. So if you're just cheap, retire, and then you can refund the cost, and then yeah. So basically what happens here, what happens with this deck is usually you do all your Overlord stuff, and then late into the game you stride into Mustafa first. You do like a small push turn. If they live, ideally they die there, right? But if they live, cool, whatever. You probably live because you're Kagero, you draw a bunch of PGs and Hilgar, stuff like that. And then you when to Root Flare, you stride, you go to Root Flare, you kill off a column, and you try push for game on that following turn for basically no cost, because Root Flare is CB0. So yeah. And finally, the Mahmood is the stride, and then you get skills on hit to Vanguard, retire a unit. So since it's on hit to Vanguard, you can only kill boosters with this, or grade 3 rears, stuff like that. So yeah, that's it for the deck profile for this deck. Tell me guys what you think about this list. If you guys are on global, tell me guys if you're excited for G to come out. That's in like 3 months, I think, on global. Like and subscribe, all the good stuff. Awesome games for you guys as per usual, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.